The time has come to review and do a real-life range test on Europe's best car of the year. Do you know this car? You don't? Well, it's what Captain America would drive if he was a real person, because this is the Jeep Avenger, the first electrified, completely electric car from the American manufacturer. And American manufacturer might be a bit of a stretch here, because this car was created, according to Jeep, for the European customer. So we're looking at an American brand doing a car for the European customer that deals away with everything Jeep stood for and is a front-wheel drive car, so not necessarily a Jeep thing, and it's purely electric. So today we're going to take a closer look at it. We're going to do a real-life range test to see just how far it can travel, and we're going to discuss everything you need to know about it. Well, this is it. It's a B-segment SUV, so it's smaller than the Jeep Renegade. It's only 4.08 meters long, and as Jeep themselves said, it is aimed at the European customer. So everything about it is supposed to be for the European customer. In terms of design, it does look like a Jeep, even though the platform beneath it all is shared widely in the Stellantis group. But I'm not going to tell you which cars. I'm going to let you figure them out once we get inside the car, where you will notice a couple of similarities with other models. So we still have the Jeep grille up front with the 7 slots, and we have the E logo over here, which tells you there's some electrified stuff in the drivetrain. We do have some sort of Jeep hints over here, like Jeep Performance LED lights. And we do have like a daytime running light on top of the headlamp. We have the Jeep logo over here. And I have to say that the car does look really nice. I mean, in person, it looks really good. And Jeep says that they took special measures to make sure that this car will handle European cities, where you have a lot of small fender benders everywhere. Roughly 70% of the crashes in Europe are small fender benders, and to that extent we have a lot of black plastic all around in the front and on the sides and so on. I like this detail over here. See that small Jeep grille, and this is the design of the car from the sides. You can see the protective plastics all around it, on the door cards, on the side sills, on the fenders. So as I said, those were done also not just to protect the car in case of small fender benders in the parking lots, but also to give the car a more robust feel. The wheels are 5-spoke wheels with diamond cut and black outlays. They are quite big for a car this small, and they also contribute to that badass image of the car. This yellow color is pretty good looking, and we have the Car of the Year logo over here on the front doors. The same logo over here. We do have a mountain peak over here. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a small detail Jeep put together for the customers, and we do have the X tail lamps in typical Jeep fashion, and as I mentioned already, these protective plastic bits at the back. Let's open the boot. Quite spacious for this segment, about 340 liters, because the batteries are in the floor under the front and the rear seats and in the center console. So the practicality of the thing wasn't really affected. So we have some additional storage space over here for the charging cables. Now let's talk about the specs of the car for a second before we hop in. So we're looking at a single electric motor on the front axle, good for 156 horsepower and 260 newton meters of torque. We have a 54 kilowatt hour battery. That's the gross capacity. The usable capacity is about 51.5. And according to Jeep, this car should be able to cover 400 kilometers with a single charge, according to the WLTP testing cycle. Let's get in and see what kind of space we have. Then we're going to take a look at the numbers. So this is the rear seat of the car. We have cheap plastic over here on the door card. Very cheap plastic over here as well, and no storage spaces, which is kind of weird. But once you get inside, you notice that you do have a limited amount of room. You have to raise the rear headrest to fit in. So this is how I would fit. I'm 6 feet tall, 250 pounds. The driver's seat is adjusted in my comfortable driving position, and I don't fit. So I can't really fit my legs in the back of this chair. But surprisingly, I do have enough headroom. Interesting, right? And this is the dashboard. It looks pretty good, actually. I like that yellow accent on the dashboard. I also have it in my car. I have an Alfa Romeo, and I have the trims done in red, which is also the color of the car. So yeah, it looks pretty good. And we're supposed to have 34 liters of space up front to make up for the lack of storage space in the back. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so this is the front end of the car. So I already talked about this yellow highlight over here. I really like it. I really like the fact that we have the Avenger logo over there. These are the vents. These are buttons for the infotainment system. And once you start the car up, they do lit up. Okay, so these are the buttons for the HVAC system, pretty good looking, and these are the buttons controlling the direction of travel. I also like this cover for the center armrest. We do have a lot of storage space over here. That's a wireless charging pad, and we do have usable USB ports over there. And I love the way this cover works, quite nice. This is a drive mode selector, and the seats are done in a textile finish with, let me show you, a yellow highlight. Quite nice as well. The door cards, well, they are done in soft touch plastic, at least on the top end. Okay, so that's a good thing. We do have soft touch materials over here as well, and of course an instrument cluster that's digital right now, and of course the screen for the infotainment system, which actually works pretty well, but it does remind me of a certain car. Don't really know which one. Could you tell me which car it reminds you of? Interesting. We do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay wirelessly on the entire width of the screen, as you can see right here. And yeah, that's about it. This is the instrument cluster, as I said, digital and everything. Let's talk about the range, right? Because we're here to do a real life range test. So 384 kilometers of range left with 96% of the battery charged. That's not bad considering that Jeep says this car will do 400 kilometers with a full charge. As it is usually the case here, I am going to take this car out for a spin around a series of B roads, then on the highway. Then we're going to finish up with a inner city road test, real life range test, and then we're going to do some more driving to tell you about my experience with the car. So stay tuned to see what kind of real life range you could expect from this new Jeep Avenger. Okay guys, so we just finished the B-road section of our real life range test. Let's take a look at the numbers. So we did 42 kilometers with an average speed of 76 kilometers an hour, and the energy consumption is 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers covered. Considering the battery has a usable capacity of 51.5, you could estimate that this car could do about 370 kilometers of range with a full battery charge. We still have 82% of the battery left and an estimated range of 322 kilometers. Now we're gonna hop on the highway, keep it at 120, 130 kilometers an hour and see what kind of energy consumption figures we get over there. Okay guys, so we just finished the highway section of our real life range test. Well, actually we finished a while ago, but I was stuck in traffic trying to find a parking spot to film the results. This is what the onboard trip computer shows. So the average speed dropped to 94 kilometers an hour. It's still dropping. That's despite my best efforts to keep the speed at around 130 kilometers an hour. I hit some roadworks on the highway and then some traffic once I hopped off it. As for the energy consumption, 21.2 kilowatt hours. Actually, it was closer to 22 when I got off the highway. Let's round it up to 21.5. That should give you about 250 kilometers of range with a full charge on the highway. But mind you, this car wasn't exactly built to be used in such a way. So as you can see, we still have about 56% of the battery left and the range estimated at 212 kilometers left. Now we're gonna drive this car around town for about 100 kilometers to see what kind of energy consumption figure we should expect in an urban setting. Welcome to day 2 of testing the real life range of the Jeep Avenger. We're gonna have to cut the inner city test short because I'm running out of time, but so far I covered 54 kilometers with an average speed of 18 kilometers an hour, and the average energy consumption is 14.2 kilowatt hours. Doing some simple math, that would give us about 370 kilometers of range with a full charge. Is that enough? I think it is for most people. According to Jeep, European customers usually have a daily routine that has only 30 kilometers, so that should be enough for at least 10 days or even more. So you should charge this car occasionally during the weekend. Now, in terms of charging and the whole process, well, the car comes with 11 kilowatt chargers as standard on AC power, and it can take up to 100 kilowatts on a CCS fast charger. On an 11 kilowatt charger, the charging process should take about 5.5 hours for the full battery. while the fast charger should take you from 10% to 80% in about 30 minutes. So that's pretty good. That's in line with most cars in this segment. Now let's get on the road and talk about what I learned about the Jeep Avenger once I had it for a few days. So what I learned about it during my time with the car. As far as the driving experience goes, well, it's hard to tell that, it's hard to say that this is a real Jeep. So, as I mentioned before, this is the first car developed by Jeep specifically for the European market, and it also marks a number of other premieres. For example, it's the first electric Jeep, completely electric Jeep, not electrified or hybrid. It is also the first front-wheel drive Jeep, which is a big thing for a lot of enthusiasts. What you need to know is that Jeep has been a brand for enthusiasts over the years. It has started to dilute itself in the more recent years, but it still has a very special place in the hearts of many off-roading enthusiasts. Now, Jeep did offer a couple of very interesting alternatives for those who aren't exactly looking for a hardcore off-roader like the Wrangler. But when they did that, they offered cars with a lot of premium qualities, like the Grand Cherokee, for example. The Avenger is trying to fill a niche in the European market that seems to be quite lucrative for other companies. Therefore, in order to be as profitable as possible, considering this is an electric car, it uses a shared platform within the Stellantis group. Stellantis, as you probably already know, owns about 14 brands, and some of them have a platform that can be converted to an electric drivetrain, if you will. It's not a fully electric platform. It's the same used by the Peugeot 208 or the Peugeot E 2008, and it's a converted internal combustion platform. But you don't really feel it when you drive the car. In a lot of cases, when you're driving a car using a converted ICE platform to an electric one, you do feel it. You feel it in the suspension mainly, because it starts to trip, it starts to jiggle quite a lot over certain surfaces. Then you actually feel it through the drivetrain. Well, not in this case. The car feels quite comfortable and quiet, and it seems like it was always destined to be an electric model. It's not that heavy. That's its main advantage. The Jeep Avenger tips the scale at just over 1.5 tons, and that gives it a power to weight ratio of about 100 horsepower per 1 ton, which is, as I mentioned in a lot of videos, the golden ratio in my book for a car that's no slouch, but it's not it's not going to reach eye-watering speeds either. So it's a decent car. You won't be begging for it to set off. Now, the amount of power you actually get from this drivetrain will vary depending on the driving mode you're in. And unlike cars from the FCA that use this platform, like the Opel Astra E that I tested a while back, or the E 2008, you do have some additional driving modes in the Jeep Avenger to keep it in line with its heritage. So you do have the Sport, Normal and Eco modes, but you also get Sand, Mud and Snow modes, which basically alter the way the traction control system intervenes whenever you're driving the car. But I'm not certain that they work the same as on other cars using this platform, because when I tested the Opel Astra E, they told me that you only get the 156 horsepower in sport mode. Otherwise, in normal mode, you only have 136 horsepower. And in eco mode, you have only 110 horsepower. There's no mention of such tricks applied to the Avenger. So I don't know if that's true in this case as well. What I do know is that the engine, the motor, is created by the same, is built by the same company, E-Motors. It's a joint venture created by Stellantis in cooperation with Nidec, which is a Japanese company. And I do know they have the same battery, right? So there could be a similar setup in between them. But what I can tell you is that the car drives nicely. I mean, for most situations, this is supposed to be used around town mainly. So for most of your trips, you will have plenty of power. It's quite comfortable, and for a B segment car, it's spacious enough. I do appreciate this storage space, this open storage space over here. It did prove quite useful over the time I use the car. For example, you can put your wallet in here and all sorts of change and tiny bits of stuff, and visibility is actually quite great. It's a quirky car. If you've driven a Peugeot or a Citroën recently, you will notice a lot of similarities in the infotainment system, the instrument cluster, the buttons and so on. These buttons do resemble the ones on the Alfa Romeo Tonale, for example, and using these buttons for the drive selector could be a bit confusing at first, but you do get used to them quite fast. You do have a lot of storage space in here, and the car recharges quite fast. So not a lot to criticize, to be honest, but I know customers will be looking for the most for their money. So I don't know if the Jeep Avenger delivers on that. For now, it's only going to be offered in electric, guys. The one you're seeing over here, there's only one drivetrain and only one battery available. But some birdies told me that ICE versions are coming as well, with most likely the 1.2 PureTech engine from the PSA group under the hood. It's a setup we've seen on the E2008. And for now, they also say that they will only sell this car in Europe, not in the US, not in China. But this could change if the car turns out to be a great seller, a bestseller. The only issue keeping it back from becoming a bestseller is the price tag. Now, in this country, in Eastern Europe, pricing for the Avenger starts at roughly 39,000 euros. And from then it goes up, depending on the model you choose, the equipment line, and the options you add on. This one is priced at 45,000 euros, and that's before all the government grants and so on. So it's quite an expensive car. For this kind of money, you can get a car like the Tesla Model Y or the Tesla Model 3, and those are cars that at the bottom list, the least powerful, in their least powerful guises, they have 300 horsepower. So not exactly a fair competition. They do have slightly longer range. Either one of them has a slightly bigger range. So it's a tough choice, and you can probably see why Tesla is doing so well in terms of sales. Now, if Jeep decides to cut on the prices, even though I don't know if it's going to be profitable anymore, this could turn out to be a great car. But until then, the pricing is what keeps it, I don't know, with a foot in the hole for now. That said, these are my thoughts on the Jeep Avenger. This has been my real life range test as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, don't forget to like, share, and of course, subscribe to keep this channel alive. Ciao.